content about me. You say quality content. What defines quality in what I can do for a potential prospective employer?
Sure, yeah. So I think, I would define quality content as anything that is educating or entertaining your audience. So there's a difference between, and the content specialists are going to kill me because they love high quality production content. But there's a difference between high quality content, like production quality, versus like the meat or the message or, what you're teaching somebody. That's more what I'm referring to as the latter of what are you saying of value? What are you giving them of value? Sure, it can look great and pretty. Obviously, that's the goal too. But if it doesn't, your message will shine through that. And that's what I'm trying to get across, the quality content.
Okay. So it's not just if we're thinking quality content and what, I initially had in mind months ago before I started this whole endeavor was, oh gosh, I'm going to have to learn graphic design. I'm going to have to learn all these things to make things look professional and look really good. You don't have to do that. You have to have the heart and soul of what you make reach people, even if it's ugly, I guess is maybe the word. Is that correct?
Right. And again, it has to go back to what I keep saying. Even your content needs to solve a problem for somebody else, or it needs to bring value to somebody else. So if someone's searching a question and you have the answer to that question in your content, that's going to be quality content to them. What I would say is the worst thing to do is just to be super vague and try to talk about everything just so that you create a lot of content. No, focus on what you know and what you do best, because that's how you're going to produce quality content and how you're going to answer people's questions well.
Okay, so taking notes for the show. Just kidding. No, not really. So when we're creating this content, we know it's not just video, but we do know that video is exceptionally useful. And I saw a statistic the other day that said it's 1,200% more effective than other mediums. That's insane. But oftentimes, it is writing. You mentioned copywriting, and that goes totally into cover letters and things like that. And of course, our resident resume expert isn't here. She actually lives in Germany, but she'll be coming back for a future episode. And I know that writing a good hook and an attention-grabbing headline about yourself is a really big thing. So when I'm writing, Sasha, what should I be doing with mechanically, if you will, and with my word choices to make myself more noticeable to employers, whether it's in a cover letter that's being shipped with a resume or a social media kind of post that we're talking about reaching kind of out to somebody?
Yeah, so I would say there's two really important things here when it comes to, getting a job through writing. And the first one is using keywords. If you're in the marketing field, then you hear that all the time. But use the job description that you're applying for to guide your cover letter. So give examples and numbers that prove why you're a good fit for what they're asking for. But the cover letter should always give something a little bit more than your resume does, where your cover letter really is personalized to the person or the company that you're applying for. And so you want to use keywords of what they said they need help with or what they're looking for. Put that in your cover letter specifically. Or if, you notice something on their website, do your research on the company and add something unexpected. So that's number two. So for example, if I was applying for, let's just say an IT software company, and I went onto their website and I really I looked at their back end code while I was on there because that's what I do. I'm an IT person. I'm channeling my inner IT person, which is not there
which
at
is
all.
not you, I don't think.
But say I'm on there and I look at the back end code and I think it's really great how they wrote that code. I don't know. I might write that in my cover letter. I spent some time on your website. I love that you did this. That's awesome. But have you ever thought of this? Or I think I can add this to that. I can improve it this way. So it's showing that you're going the extra mile and you're personalizing it, and you're going to stand out from all the people who write their cover letters and say, hi, yes, I have this many years of experience. I think I could be a good fit for your company because, I'm a hard worker and I do this. Yes, those are all important things that you need in there, but you also need something that's going to stand out, put
So
you
again,
above the rest.
your USP, unique selling proposition. So
Yeah.
like maybe that's the theme of this episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Rename it. Okay. So I really like that relating to kind of the extra mile there and giving a great example of that. So let's go with, to you and what you do every day. I know you do a lot of marketing. If I wanted to have a job like you have, what would I need to know and what would I need to do to get started?
Yeah, so I would say, whether it's marketing or anything that you are doing consulting on, the biggest thing is to stay hungry and always be learning. Sharpen your skills. Become the expert at something. And that's really important too, is like niche down. Like think of something like smaller than just like marketing. Like if I was going to be a consultant, I probably, would want to focus on email marketing specifically, or I might want to focus on social media marketing. Like for example, the niche of Servant Marketing Company is using customer research and insights to guide your marketing strategy. So we're really focused on that one piece of it. And I would say the same thing for someone who's who wants to monetize, what they do well, is just become very well at it. That's the first step. And then, everything we talked about today, market yourself and your USP, but also document what you do well and turn it into a framework to help others. So like if I have this foolproof social marketing strategy that I've worked on for years and years, and I've seen it play out, and I've made it better and better and better, and I've learned, and I've, come up with this like framework of, well, you should post this many times a day, and you should have this kind of copy in your social, like it starts to become a framework that if you document it, you can teach it to somebody else. And then they now have that skill set and you're teaching them something. So that would be the biggest thing, is get good at something and then document the framework of how you do it.
And that's worth money. That's the one thing we talked about earlier, monetizing your brand and maybe monetizing yourself. If somebody were to go down sort of your career path, if you will, creating that, masterclass, if you will, which is kind of what this is, if you will, to follow for somebody and say, hey, this is foolproof, let's go with it. And being able to do that with your own personal brand, I think is very useful as well. So definitely major value there. All right. Closing down almost here. We're almost to the end, but there's a kind of an interesting thing here, and we touched on this earlier in the actual episode. Let's talk about growth. What kind of milestones should somebody who is entering this kind of personal brand arena be setting for their brand, and how the world sees them?
Yeah, so I think that this also depends on what your goals are. Like, do you want to be, a public figure with all these followers, or do you just want to land your dream job at like a local paint shop? Like, I don't know. Like, it depends on what your goal is here. So really, I think what you first need to do is, what do you want to accomplish? And then break that into steps. What are, let's just say, the 5 to 10 steps, whether it's a big goal or a smaller goal, that you're going to need to do to get there? And then put a timeline on those things, and those become your milestones. So it really depends on what you want to accomplish. Okay,
so again, that's kind of that SMART goal thing where you need to have, I can't remember what they all stand for, but one of them is time. The T is time, that it needs to be you need to set a deadline for yourself and hopefully reach that goal either by that deadline or find out why you didn't in that case. Okay, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the biggest thing though is like, don't just focus on the vanity numbers, like followers and likes on social media. Those are great, and they're measures to look at and to like gauge your performance for sure, but they aren't everything. A passionate community can be way more powerful and fruitful than a swarm of lukewarm followers. So focus on creating meaningful connections. So that's why you even see like there's influencers who make a lot of money on social media, but they don't have millions of followers. They have a smaller, tight-knit group community that, feed off of each other and they respect each other. And so like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're the next Gary Vee.
Right.
That'd probably be kind of hard. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like, use those numbers as measures of growth, but it's really not everything. And this is going to sound so cliche, but it's really about how you feel on the inside. Like, if you're feeling good about where you are and the connections that you're forming, like, that's how you should be measuring your success at the end of the day.
Right. Okay. So personal story time. I felt more in tune with this whole thing of building a personal brand via LinkedIn. Man, I have connected with some of, like, the greatest people over the past few weeks, and I was talking about that earlier as well. That I think has a ton of value. And these are people
100%.
who can help me move forward with whatever I'm doing, whether it's this podcast, whether it's other worky things or consulting deals and things like that. That I think has a very concrete value to it. Looking at my LinkedIn connections over the past 6 months versus the prior 6 years, the quality of those has just skyrocketed, which is awesome. It's all about building this personal brand of people who may be able to help me find whatever my next step is in life, but could also potentially find somebody else their next step in life, which is cool. Okay. 42 minutes later, which is bananas. And they go fast.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
I'm having so much fun.
So here's your kind of chance to turn the tables here, Ms. Sasha. Anything I missed involving marketing yourself that might help our listeners that I didn't ask you today?
So I guess my last piece of advice is to always go above and beyond. Always go a little bit further than the next guy. Take that extra 20 minutes to customize your resume. Or write the cover letter. Gosh, I can't even tell you how many times people don't write the cover letter. Like, they just don't.
We talked about that in an earlier episode, that every
that's
single
right,
resume... Yeah, you listen to it. I love it.
I sure did.
But every single resume should have a cover letter, and a custom one at that.
If you want to get that job, you should write the cover letter.
Yes.
Do your research. Come prepared with specific and thoughtful questions, like we talked about before. Create the best content that you can. I promise you will never regret it, especially when it lands you your dream job. So always go further than the next guy.
Awesome. And that's sometimes tough. That's for sure. Especially when you're doing 15 a day or 5 a day or 20 a week or whatever it might be. So cool. Anything else we missed?
I don't think so. I mean, just focus on what makes you you and how it solves problems for other people.
Got it. Good deal. Well, as we wind down here, again, thank you, Sasha, for coming on. It's your turn to kind of use this to market you a little bit. What kind of plugs and shout outs did you want to give while you are on the show with us?
I really just say, like, anyone who's listening, if any of this resonated with you, or if you have other questions, or you want to connect with me more, feel free to just shoot me a message on LinkedIn or a connection request. Let me know how I can help. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about Servant Marketing Company, you can go to servantmarketingco.com. And it was a really big pleasure to be on the podcast with you, Rob. I can't thank you enough for having me. You are doing really great things here, and I'm so excited to see where you take this and how you grow. So
it's going to be a kind of a challenge, I'm going to say, but it's something I've really wanted to do, and I was actually listening to an old Gary Vee video the other day, and it was find the thing you like to do and do it.
Yes,
and that's
love me some Gary Vee. Man.
I do, and I went from loving to loathing, and I think I'm back on the other side of the coin now, but. It's so fun to do this, and I would love to see this become something so much more than just one guy in Port Washington, Wisconsin going I got to help people find jobs and turning it into something that's so much better for folks, because there's so many people out there that need a hand. So we'll wrap it on that. And on my end of things here, for us here at Recruiting Hell, wonderful listeners, as always, if you do have questions, comments, feedback here with us at the show, you can always drop us a line at therecruitinghellpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at recruiting_hell, or on our Facebook fan page. We now have the Instagrams as well, which is outstanding. So that's recruiting_hell_podcast. Some neat stuff on there. Definitely put a lot of effort into that this week. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, followed, or shared the show, I would greatly appreciate it. And there are millions of Americans out there who could benefit from learning more about how to power up their job hunt, whether it's because they have no job or need a better one. They're your friends and neighbors. Let's get them helped out. And lastly, as always, a big thank you to Purple Planet Music for our theme song, you, the listener, for tuning in, and the fabulous Sasha Canady for being our guest today. Again, I'm Rob Conlon, and until we meet again, keep moving forward with your self betterment.